Not this time. It wasn't loud, wasn't angry, just clear, like a line drawn gently with no apology. Claire froze. Her right hand still held the system report, pages thick with columns, percentages, checkboxes. Nothing emotional, just data. She had walked into the room 5 minutes earlier with full authority. Even under the name badge C-Lay, Systems Optimization, she didn't need to announce who she was. Everyone followed data. And this data said one thing: legacy inputs needed to be cleared. But now, with just 3 words, the janitor had stopped it. The room didn't go silent because people were shocked. The room went silent because nothing else dared move. 68 years old, same navy shirt he'd worn for decades. No badge, no clipboard, just a folded cloth in his back pocket and eyes that had seen too much to be impressed. Even the ceiling lights seemed to buzz quieter. Raymond Treen stood 3 feet from her. He didn't say it like someone making a point. He said it like someone done being quiet. He didn't blink. Claire blinked instead. Twice. She was used to polite nods, reports being signed, people stepping aside, especially when they didn't know who she really was. She wasn't used to this. But this? This wasn't compliance. It wasn't confrontation either. It was stillness. Heavy. Honest. He didn't move, didn't reach for a pen. He just looked at her and repeated, even softer, "Not this time." Claire glanced at the page in her hand again, the override elimination form. The system update couldn't go through until he acknowledged it. Ray's name was tied to over 800 manual entries, legacy data flagged for deletion. All he had to do was initial the bottom line, a check mark, a date, done. But instead, he had drawn a different kind of line, and Claire had no script for this. Her breath caught, not fully, but just enough that she felt it in her chest. The room felt colder than a minute ago. The hallway light spilled in from the crack in the door, a rectangle of blue-white that touched Ray's shoes but not hers. Behind her, someone in the front aisle laughed. A barcode scanner beeped, plastic wheels squeaked across linoleum. But in here, the clock had stopped. Claire noticed the cloth on the table behind Ray, the one he always folded before shifts. Today, it was folded too neatly, like a message. She'd walked in thinking this would take 5 minutes. Now she was standing in a room where an old man had just told her, without raising his voice, that not everything could be cleared with a checkbox. And he hadn't said no. He hadn't said never. He said, "Not this time." And she didn't know why. But it felt like the most important thing anyone had said to her all year. Stay with it. Because sometimes the sentence that changes everything doesn't come with drama. It just lands. If you've ever heard a voice like that, quiet but final, drop a like. Or just stay. We're not done here. Not this time. Have you ever been stopped by something quiet? It wasn't the volume, it wasn't the words, it was the space around them. 3 little ones, spoken slow, and somehow they pulled the ground out from under everything she thought was settled. Claire stood there with a signed directive, a progress tracker synced to the second, a whole dashboard waiting for one final clearance. She had built this system, brick by digital brick. Every metric had a reason, every function had a rule. Except this man, this janitor with tired shoulders and hands like folded paper, had just said, "Not this time," and it echoed louder than anything in the transition meeting last week. Have you ever had that? A moment that doesn't argue, doesn't shout, but still makes you stop cold? Like someone finally drew a line where nobody else had the nerve, not to punish, not to prove a point, just to say, this part still matters. It doesn't take a raised voice to say enough. Sometimes it just takes someone who knows what they're protecting. If you've ever had a moment like that, where someone quietly held their ground, where you heard a sentence that stuck in your chest longer than it had any right to, then maybe you already know what kind of story this is. Stay with it. You might recognize something in the silence. We're just getting started.
You're listening to Cobi Tells. We don't just tell, we nourish.
She wasn't here for the numbers. Not really. Claire had walked in like a contractor, neutral blazer, low ponytail, name badge that didn't say CEO, just C. Lee, Systems Optimization. No one looked twice. That was the point. Store Bafauzo 1, the first Willow Grove. Built by her grandfather with hand-painted signs, bread baskets lined with old newspapers, and a checkout bell that rang like a dinner table chime. Now? Touchscreens, auto-locking carts, scent of lemon disinfectant, sharp, synthetic, too clean. She hadn't been back in years, not since they removed the community bookshelves, not since they optimized everything. But something had been pulling at her. Something deeper than the dip in return visits, or the weird tone shift in reviews. Not what people said, just how they said it. It didn't show up in graphs, but she felt it. So she'd requested access. Privately, quietly, didn't tell the board, didn't alert regional, just showed up. Because there was one person still on the payroll who remembered what the store used to sound like. Raymond Trin, janitor, age 68. Technically the oldest employee in the system. But that wasn't why she came. He was the last person with clearance to the original customer input logs. Legacy Tier 0 entries. The kind that had no structure, no tags, no system logic. Just memory. He helped build them. But no one said that anymore. Now he was just Mr. Ray. The man with the mop. The one who didn't use the elevator. She had passed him that morning, early, before the floor got loud. He'd looked up, nodded once, didn't blink. And something tugged in her chest. A pressure, like a memory about to resurface, but not quite there yet. She brushed it off. She had a job to do. At least, that's what she told herself. In her back pocket, folded twice, was a copy of a crayon map, drawn by a child. Messy arrows. Crooked labels. This way to bread. Grandma's cart park zone. Cookie aisle. Best smells. She had made it when she was 7, taped it to the back office wall like a treasure map. Someone had taken it down years ago. But Ray had kept a scan, sent it to her once. No message, just a file. She never asked how he had it. She'd forgotten about that map for over 2 decades, until that moment at the sink. Until that silence in the break room. She wasn't just here to clean data. She was here to find what the system forgot. Claire opened the override log. Yellow rows filled the screen. Manual entries. Ray's name beside each one. He hadn't written rules. He'd written people. And she wasn't sure when they'd decided that didn't count. Not this time. Not again. She was invisible, but the system saw everything. Except what mattered. The first thing was small. A markdown sign, just a number off. 40% off instead of 15. It wasn't even supposed to go live until 11 a.m. Claire spotted it by accident, walking past the yogurt fridge. Her tablet showed no override, no system change. She flagged it, kept moving. But 20 minutes later, when she circled back, it had already been replaced. Same layout, same paper, back to 15. No one had touched it. The tape edges weren't fresh. They were soft, slightly yellow, old. Someone had switched it from memory, not because the system told them, because they knew. She found Ray by the utility sink. He was rinsing a spray bottle, slow and steady. Claire didn't say much, just raised 2 fingers. Markdown sign, dairy aisle. He shrugged. Wasn't time yet. That's all. And it settled in her chest like static. Something small, slightly off. By day 3, she had walked every aisle. Nobody said her name. Not the cashiers, not the stock crew, not the assistant manager who gave her a half wave and said, "Tech stuff's in the back." Not even Claire said Claire. She paused once by aisle 4, the bakery section. She remembered hiding there when she was 7. Under a shelf that used to lean to the left, back when the smell of bread meant something. Now the shelves were smooth, clean, sterile, no memory. She looked down at the tile. There was nothing to crouch under anymore. She read the override logs, hundreds of entries. Granddaughter couldn't read the digital scale. Wrote weight by hand. Lady thought she was getting 3 for 1. System didn't agree. I gave it to her anyway. Mr. Collins needed the sale sign printed larger. Told him to bring it next week and I'd do it for him. They weren't errors. They were kindness. Manual, slow, inconvenient. But they carried something the system didn't know how to calculate. Claire didn't hit submit. She just sat there, tablet in her lap, staring at the yellow lines like they were holding a secret she wasn't ready to say out loud. One afternoon she opened a drawer looking for old forms. Tucked between blank receipt rolls and a pile of scratch paper was a folded page, child's crayon, stick figures, a shelf, a book. Above the drawing, in big, shaky letters, "She lets me read on Tuesdays." No name, no date, just a little heart drawn too large for the stick figure's hand. Claire stared at it longer than she meant to. She remembered the shelf in the picture, the corner by the old returns desk. There used to be a crate there, labeled Free Reading. She remembered a little girl with a bright pink coat, reading aloud, badly but boldly, and someone, maybe Claire, sitting next to her. Maybe not. But this drawing said it was. She folded the paper again, put it in her pocket, said nothing. In the break room, she sat alone, same seat, same mug of too hot tea. The others passed through, talking shelf rotation, freezer maintenance, bakery test batches. No one spoke to her, not cruelly, just not at all. A tray of muffins came in. Everyone took one. Claire didn't. No one offered. Her inbox pinged. Subject, Tier 0 termination approval. Waiting on you. She closed the message, opened the override log again, scrolled to entry 812. Then she heard laughter down the hall, the lunch crew heading out. "Hey, save me a seat." No one looked her way. She didn't follow. Just brought her tea down the service hallway, sat near the old power box. Not because she wanted quiet, but because she didn't want to be seen sitting alone at a table no one sat with her. She opened a blank note. Typed, "If a system can detect emotion, but not respect it, does it know anything at all?" Then closed it. Didn't save. They called another meeting. Phase 3 of the checkout redesign. No more overrides. No more one-offs. "Corporate wants consistency," the manager said. "Clean house." Claire sat in the back. When they asked for questions, she stood, told a story. "When I was 7, this store had a bin of 5-cent candies by the door. Some days I didn't have a nickel, but the man at the counter would say, 'Take one anyway. Come back next time.'" A few chuckled softly, but most stayed still. Claire looked around. The candy wasn't the point. It was that someone saw me, knew I'd come back. She sat down. No one clapped. But no one spoke for a moment either. That was enough. Later, in the back freezer corridor, she found Ray again. Same mop, same silence. "They want you to wipe it," he said. "They want me to confirm it," she replied. He didn't look at her, just kept wiping. "You knew who slowed down, who needed help." He nodded once, wrote it down, that's all. We watched. She paused. The new system tracks facial micro-expressions, predicts stress triggers. It can tag more emotion than a person. Ray turned to her, slowly. "I don't need the explanation," he said. "I need the silence." And it landed, heavier than any algorithm. "You're erasing something not because it's wrong," he said, "just because no one remembers why it was made." Claire didn't respond, didn't defend. She got a message. She just stood in the cold air, listening to his mop strokes against the tile. 2. Quiet. 1. Then she left. That night, subject, regional operations offer, full board approval. She didn't open it. Instead, she packed a sandwich from the employee fridge. Used slices of the bread Ray had pulled from the discard rack. Still soft, still good. She walked to the back step, ate it alone. Lynn passed by. She asked, "Everything okay?" Claire looked up, smiled faintly. "I got promoted." Lynn blinked. "Congrats." "I don't think I want it." Claire didn't say, because of Ray, or because of the logs. She just said, because of what I remembered, in the silence. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The meeting room wasn't a real boardroom, just a converted storage space in the back of Store 001. Projector screen pulled down crooked, 4 mismatched chairs, 1 folding table. Claire walked in at 10 sharp. No badge this time, no clipboard. The manager, Nate, gestured to a chair at the far end. "You can sit there." Too far from the screen to read anything clearly. Too far from her own name. The slide on the wall read, "Phase-out schedule. Legacy support systems. No music. No questions. Just arrows pointing forward." A man in a zip-up fleece from regional IT started speaking. She knew his face. Didn't remember his name. "Once Tier 0 data is cleared, all entries will flow through the AI dashboard with full behavioral tagging. This eliminates variance from manual overrides or subjective notes." Subjective notes. That's what they called Ray's logs now. Someone in the room raised a hand. What about the employee still listed as override capable? Raymond T? He's got like 800 flags. Nate, the store manager, shifted in his seat. "He's still here. Janitor. No role in data anymore, but yeah. Last manual credential tied to 001. The IT guy chuckled, too soft for a real laugh. "Seriously? That guy still works here?" No one corrected him. No one said anything. Claire didn't move. Then another voice, a woman she didn't recognize, asked, "Why hasn't that credential been terminated yet?" Nate shrugged. "We were waiting on system confirmation, but it's non-critical. We'll push it out this cycle." Just like that. Decided. No mention of what those logs held, no mention of what they meant. Just another obsolete function, just another leftover. Claire blinked. Her fingers rested against the edge of the table. Cool. Steady. She didn't raise her hand. She didn't clear her throat. She just spoke. Low. Even. "Do we have record of when those overrides were most used?" They all turned, as if she had interrupted. The IT guy scrolled, bored. Most were tied to accessibility exceptions, older guests, language barriers, non-standard requests, but that's all covered now. Covered. She nodded. Someone asked, "I'd like to read the last 50 entries, in full." Silence, not sarcastic, steady, a pause in the system. "Why?" she said. She looked up, not angry, just a sentence. "I built the current system. I'd like to know what it's replacing." She found Ray in the back hallway. The room shifted, like someone leaned back too fast but didn't make noise. Like every eye realized too late what they were really looking at. No title on her name badge, no monogrammed intro. Just... And suddenly everything stopped. He said simply. "Later that evening, same mop," he said, not looking up. "Same floor that never dried right." She replied, "They want you to wipe it. They want me to confirm it." He ran the cloth in a long line under the dry goods shelf. Paused. "Most of your overrides were for accessibility. People who needed help. You knew that." Ray didn't flinch. "That's all?" "We watched who slowed down. Wrote it down." She hesitated. "The new system reads facial micro-expressions, not cold. It predicts stress triggers. It detects emotion faster than a human." He stopped wiping. "No more one-off decisions at checkout. Not as a consultant. Corporate wants consistency." Looking, turned. Not sharp, just, "I don't need the explanation." In the cold smell of pine cleaner and cardboard, and listened to a man fold history into a cloth. He said, "I need the silence. Come back next time." A staff huddle. And in that silence, the fluorescent lights flickered. Or maybe it was just her chest tightening again. "You're not erasing this because it's wrong," he added. "You're erasing it because no one remembers why it was made." She didn't argue. Muffins halfway gone. Didn't nod. Didn't say "I know." Just stood there. Next morning, coffee pot working too hard. Nate stood in front of the microwave. Phase 3 rolls out Monday. Claire sat in the back, not as a guest, just there. She wasn't scheduled to speak, but when Nate said, "We're cleaning house," she stood. Everyone turned. No slide, no numbers, just a story. "When I was 7, this store had a bin by the front. 5-cent candies. Some days I didn't have a nickel. But the man at the counter, I think his name was Peter, he'd say, 'Take one anyway.'" She paused. The candy wasn't the point. It was that someone saw me, knew I'd return. Silence, not heavy, just real. She sat back down. No one clapped, but no one spoke either. Lynn, the quiet hire, walked by after the meeting, didn't say much, just whispered, "I remember that bin, had lemon drops. I always picked the yellow ones." That evening, Claire opened her inbox. A draft reply sat there waiting. Subject, "Director offer, Willow Grove North Cluster." She didn't click send, not yet. Instead, she folded a receipt note Ray had left on the edge of her desk. Something about a refund he gave out of pocket. There was no code for that. But the paper was soft from hands. She placed it next to her tablet, then logged out. Not because she was finished, but because she was finally ready to begin. She didn't correct them. She just stayed. Claire hadn't planned to be in the bread aisle. It was late evening. Most of the carts were gone. The air was cooler than usual, a mix of flour dust, lemon cleaner, and silence. She had walked through the store without a destination, just a rhythm, just watching. Then she saw Ray, standing still by the sandwich bread shelf. No cart, no mop, no tools, just him. One hand resting on a loaf labeled, "Past sell-by date, do not stock." He didn't flinch when she stepped beside him. Claire looked at the plastic, sealed, no cracks. She pressed her thumb lightly. It gave, still soft. "It feels fine," she said. Ray handed it to her. "Open it." She peeled back the plastic. The smell was faint, but warm. Soft slices, no crust cracks, no dryness. She ran her fingers across the middle. "Would have fed someone," she said. Ray nodded. "System doesn't check softness, just time." They stood together, holding a loaf that no longer counted. "You ever notice the old shelf used to lean?" he said. Claire smiled faintly. "Used to hide under it." Ray didn't blink. "I know." That night, Claire made a sandwich. Not from the store's vending fridge. From that bread. She ate it on the back step where the staff took breaks. It tasted normal. But something about the act felt like a protest. Not angry, just intentional. The next morning, her inbox held a follow-up. Subject, "Regional Ops Position. Final confirmation needed." She stared at it, then hit compose. Wrote, "Thank you for the consideration. After review, I'm choosing to stay at Store 001 for now. There's still work here that matters, just not the kind that scales. Claire Walker." No title under her name. No CC, no call to discuss. She just hit send and closed the laptop like someone closing a journal. Not a deal. By 9 a.m., someone noticed. The chair she'd used for 2 weeks, still there, still clean, but empty. No charger cord, no mug, no note. Lynn glanced around. "Is Claire off today?" No one answered. Someone shrugged. "Maybe she's at HQ, but nobody knew, except Ray." He walked past the system room at 9:30, paused at the door, didn't enter. He didn't touch the chair, didn't clean the desk. He just placed something down. A single paperclip, bent into an arrow, not pointing up, not down, but slightly left, toward the hallway where Claire's childhood map had once been taped. He stepped back, kept walking. Didn't say a word. At 10 a regional consultant arrived. Clipboard, shiny shoes, fresh badge. "Where do I set up?" they asked. Nate pointed. "You can sit there." The consultant pulled the chair out. Didn't see the paperclip until it fell. Didn't pick it up. Just kicked it to the side and opened their laptop. That afternoon, Claire returned. Not through the front, not as staff, just quiet. She walked the aisles like a visitor who still knew where everything was, even if everything had moved. By the service door near aisle 2, there was a wall, blank. But faint tape marks still lingered in the shape of a rectangle. Claire stood there for a while, then pulled out a folder. Inside, a printed scan of the crayon map Ray had sent her years ago. She didn't know how he had kept it, didn't ask. She just brought tape. Edges didn't line up perfectly. One corner bent from the folder, but she pressed it flat, one square at a time. When she stepped back, it looked too small for the wall, but it looked like it belonged. In a drawer by the front desk, she found 3 seasonal shelf tags, wrote on them in pen, "Gentle path for those who walk slower. Shortcuts aren't always faster. If you're lost, look for yellow." She placed them in 3 corners of the store. Didn't log it. Didn't ask permission. Didn't take a photo. She just left them. And when she walked to the exit, before locking up, she turned. The store wasn't fixed, wasn't clean, but it was familiar. That was enough. She didn't archive it. She didn't automate it. She kept it. The store was closed. Lights in night mode. Amber near the floor. Cold white along the rafters. The kind of lighting that made everything feel quieter than it already was. Claire stayed behind, not to work, not to review numbers, just to be still. She walked to the old service counter, not the touchscreen one, but the bench off to the side, near the filing drawers no one had digitized, knee against wood. Fingertips brushed the underside of the cabinet. And there it was, a cardboard box, old, worn, labeled in faded Sharpie, non-match receipts, don't toss. She pulled it out slowly. Dust lifted, but didn't startle her. She opened it. Inside were hundreds, maybe thousands, of paper slips. Some curled, some faded to gray, some still warm with ink. Many had something written on the back, tiny, uneven human notes. Customer returned 3 bananas. Gave credit anyway. She was shaking. Boy lost $2 in the toy machine. Told him it's okay. Gave him a sticker. Elderly guest confused the total. Smiled when I said don't worry about it. Claire didn't sort them. Didn't read each one. She just picked up a handful. Stacked them. Pressed gently along the folds. Hands moving without needing reason. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like remembering. Like honoring something that didn't need to be turned into protocol. After maybe 10 minutes, maybe longer, she paused. Looked around the store. A single light still on in aisle 4. Near the map. Near the sign that now read, "Gentle path for those who walk slower." She smiled. Not big, not performative, just real. Then she placed the lid back on the box, found a marker. Wrote one word on top. Keep. That was all. Not for audit. Not for archive. Not for the system. Just for someone who might need to remember why any of it mattered. She left the box right where it was. Not hidden, but not obvious either, like memory, like kindness, like a sentence someone once whispered. Not this time.
Thank you for listening. If the story moved you, let it move someone else. Share.